From the Mapleview Animal Hospital studios, this is the WHTC Morning News with Gary Stevens and Peg McNichol on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you back to WHTC's Talk of the Town. Nope, it's the Morning News. Get our shows right here for this Tuesday, March the 9th. I'm Gary Stevens. Tuesday mornings, we have the opportunity to find out what's going on in Washington. Our chat with Congressman Fred Upton, the Republican from St. Joseph, represents Allegan County in the halls of Congress, and he joins us via the Zoom connection. Fred, good morning. Welcome back to WHTC.
Well, good morning. I think it's a nice day there, too. It seems like spring is right around the corner.
And, of course, that means the cherry blossoms, I believe, in Washington. That should be coming up very nice.
Another month. They say it's going to be the first. It's going to be at Easter. It's going to be literally the first weekend is the early forecast for the cherry blossom. But you got to be socially distant. So I don't know. It won't be quite the same.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's going to be the case. Some stories, some things I need your comments on. First of all, the House could approve President Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief plan as soon as Tuesday or possibly Wednesday. The House needs to vote on the bill the Senate passed over the weekend, including $1,400 direct payments for millions of Americans, an extension of unemployment benefits, and money for state and local governments, among a host of other measures. But the Senate bill does not include the $15 an hour minimum wage increase the House passed last month as part of its relief package. Fred, is this a more of a formality than anything else, or could we see some debate and maybe some alterations of what the Senate passed, of what the House passed earlier?
No, this bill is coming to the floor. No amendments are allowed. I voted against the procedure last night. That was our last vote last night. So it's going to come up, no amendments. It's either yes or no. The paperwork may not come over until a little bit later from the Senate, so that'll give them probably until tomorrow, I think, is when we're actually going to vote on it now, was the latest word. But really, the changes that came about from the House bill, they weren't really offered by amendments by either Republicans or Democrats. I know they had a huge, what they call a vote-a-rama. I mean, literally, they had, 50, 60, 70 different amendments. Virtually all of them failed. So it was pretty much the House-passed bill with the parliamentarian making the real changes. So the $15 minimum wage was stripped out because that wasn't under the auspices of what they normally could do to get with 50 votes. Some of the pork barrel projects, the new subway for Nancy Pelosi, well, that was stripped out. New bridge to nowhere, one from New York to Canada for Chuck Schumer, that was stripped out. So really, there's been no Republican amendments to this at all. There was a slight change on the unemployment numbers, but they extended it and reduced it by a little bit, a couple different amendments there. But the vote tonight or tomorrow is going to be, in essence, the Democratic package with no Republican input. It'll pass by a pure partisan vote, as it did in the Senate, 50-49. I don't think that they'll get a single Republican vote in the House.
Disappointing more than anything else, because you would like to have seen it bipartisan?
Yeah, it really is. The last couple of COVID packages were all bipartisan, 350, 400 votes. I think even Justin Amash voted for one of them way back a year ago. But incredibly, this is really a partisan exercise. And I really hope it doesn't poison the well for what we need to do. But so far, that's been the approach by Speaker Pelosi on all these bills, whether it be H.R. 1, whether it be a police reform bill. At the end of the day, I'm hoping that we can move these closer to the center, closer to being bipartisan, to really get things done, because we have divided government. So we're hoping to close this chapter, start a new one, and really get to some bipartisan work on a good number of issues, including immigration reform.
And certainly immigration reform, with all the stories that are coming out this week about the children coming to the border and the lack of space. And it seems as if some people that are ambitious are trying to take advantage of the fact that there's a change of administration, they feel, maybe a change in the mood towards people coming into this country, and they're trying to take advantage of it.
Yep, you're exactly right. And, I got to say, President Trump a few years ago said Congress get the job done, and we didn't. There were a couple different bipartisan proposals. At the end of the day, we did pass an ag immigration bill with bipartisan support. Senate never took it up. It's a possibility that we could see that bill come back as early as next week. And there's been outreaches to Republicans and Democrats in the Senate to see if they can't take that up. So I'm a little more encouraged that we can see that, and maybe we can do immigration reform piece by piece. Certainly a comprehensive bill is pretty difficult to do it in any time. But, when you take issues like the Dreamers, and of course, these are usually kids come at age 3 or 4 from all over the place. They've been here 15, 20 years. They've got an education. Many of them have families now. That needs to be dealt with. The majority of Americans certainly support that. As I work with my farmers, my agriculture sector, whether they be here in Michigan or whether they be out in California or different places, we need a migrant workforce, and we need a process so that we can really rely on that very sustainable part of certainly our economy here in the Midwest.
We're talking with Congressman Fred Upton on the WHTC Morning News. I'm going to quote Section 4 of the United States, Article 4 of the U.S. Constitution, guaranteed to every state in this union a Republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and an application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. There are some who are claiming that Congress and the administration not fulfilling Article 4 of the United States Constitution. One listener said he had called your office and tried to get your office to respond to his claim that the Constitution has not been defended. So he's asked us to ask you about that particular aspect.
Well, domestic terrorism is an issue that's with us. We need to protect the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's part of the Constitution for sure. Really going back to Oklahoma City a lot of years ago, we got to make sure that we have the tools in the toolbox to defend our institutions. And that's why there's been bipartisan legislation to try and provide for that, to provide our domestic agent, whether it be local police or sheriff departments, whether it be our FBI and others. You've got careful parameters that are there, safeguards. Obviously, the CIA and other things can't be involved in domestic uses. But, as we saw certainly back on January 6th, but really for some time now, a rise of potential, kidnapping. I know that's in of our governor. A lot of different things that are going on. We need to make sure that everybody's safe. That's for sure.
Now, the thing is, though, that highlights to a certain extent perception more than anything else. Some perceive that Congress and the president and the executive office not doing their jobs, not following the Constitution. Others are saying they actually are following the Constitution. It's just a matter of perception to me more than anything else.
Well, we have laws on the books. I mean, whether it's threats against folks, whether it be federal officials, obviously crimes, murder, that type of thing. I don't anticipate it. We're all going to watch this trial with the governor. I mean, clearly that was, they were. If you read the press claims, they're actually they were actually thinking they would take control of Michigan by seizing the Michigan state capitol and kidnapping the governor, perhaps executing her. They thought they would actually take over and I don't know, drop Michigan as one of the 50 states. Who knows what crazy idea they had, but clearly we've got laws that are in place that will prevent that. And assuming that they're guilty, and again, they're just, you're innocent till proven guilty. But those allegations, once the trial moves, likely they're going to see a long sentence, assuming that they're proven guilty.
Last Friday, you and Representative Delgetti, both of you very much involved with the 21st Century Cures initiative that was signed into law, had a chance to chat with the president about the cancer situation and talking about a potential new agency called the Advanced Research Projects Agency. How do those talks go?
Well, this is another stage of what we did with 21st Century Cures. And as I talked to the president in the Oval Office, I reminded him that it was literally 5 years ago, almost to the day, that a number of us met with him, got his support. We were able to pass, President Obama signed 21st Century Cures into law, speeding up the approvals of drugs and devices. And without that, we would not have the emergency use authorization that is allowed now for 3 vaccines to combat COVID. Now we're looking at the next stage. And for the last year and a half, Congresswoman DeGette and myself have been working on updating that legislation. I think the president will be very supportive of what we try to do. But, you know, one of the issues that we're going to try to do is include more money for research to really find the cure, particularly for cancer. That's always been an issue that the president has had. We included a number of different proposals in the 21st Century Cures bill. But one of his ideas is to really set up an independent research arm within the Department of HHS, primarily to look at cancer, not to compete with other agencies, the NIH and others, but really, I think, probably make this a legacy issue, just like President Trump did with the space agency as a fifth arm now of our Defense Department, but really focus on this. No one's against cancer research. And we had we had 9 members of Congress there, 5 senators, 4 House members, I think was what the total was. We're pretty much all on board. We want to, whose family hasn't been impacted by cancer? Not mine. Everybody's family has been. So this is an issue that we can work together, goes along with his pledge to be bipartisan. And I'd like to think in the next couple months, and we're probably going to be meeting again the next couple weeks, he's assigned this to be a top priority. And bingo, here we go for a huge bipartisan win on something that most Americans truly do care about.
And finally, very briefly, the vaccine rollout. Of course, Pfizer right in the backyard, Johnson & Johnson being made up in the GR area as well. More vaccines, more people vaccinated. We can start loosening some of the restrictions on health, and certainly that's got to be a good sign.
Well, it is a good sign. And again, for Johnson & Johnson, it's able to take advantage of the emergency use authorization. So remember in the past, when new drugs were discovered and approved, that's when the manufacturing process would actually start. They were so excited with the prospects of this, they were actually allowed to manufacture it prior to its approval, just like Pfizer did, just like Moderna did, and now Johnson & Johnson, which meant literally flooding the market with millions of doses this last week. Another 4 million on top of what Pfizer and Moderna already were doing. So we're seeing states like Michigan, they're reducing the age now to 50 years old in addition to what we've had before. And we're going to be approaching maybe as many as 3 or 4 million doses actually of folks vaccinated in the next couple of weeks, and really get to the goal of where we want to be by the end of May, beginning of June, really having the majority of Americans vaccinated and begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Along those lines as well, Fred, we're getting word that the Pfizer vaccine is able to neutralize a rapidly spreading virus variant from Brazil. And earlier studies found that the UK and South African variants were also neutralized by the Pfizer vaccine.
Yeah, it is great news for Pfizer. Look, we have a wonderful work crew there, scientists. Again, they were the first one out of the box. It was such an exciting day back in December when we saw those trucks roll down Portage Avenue and go to Grand Rapids and go to the UPS and the FedEx facilities all around the country and begin to see the promise of what we want truly to happen.
He is Congressman Fred Upton. He joins us Tuesday mornings talk about some of the things going on in Washington. We certainly appreciate the time and the answers, Fred, for our questions. And if all goes well, hey, let's do this again next Tuesday morning.
Yeah, Tuesday's a flyback day, so we're gonna have to figure out things. We'll figure it out.
All right, sounds good. Fred Upton, thank you very much for joining us on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.